And it's recording. Okay. Hello, everybody, and welcome to my video. So today I want to talk to you guys about how I made my game in my own engine using OpenGL and C++. And before we get into that, I just wanted to let you know that my game is now released on Steam. Well, technically it's going to release on the 29th of this month, but the demo is available. So if you check the link description down below, you will see a link to the demo. It's entirely free, so go ahead, play it, enjoy it. And if you have any opinions about the game, if you like it or if you hate it, anything, you can also access my Discord, which is also in the link in the description. And you can let me know and give me some feedback. And yeah. Anyway, so how did I make a game engine? And how did I make my game in my game engine? And was it hard to learn all these things? So this is a short video that I wanted to make. And also this video is also for OpenGL developers or for developers in general, really. It doesn't matter if you're using OpenGL or if you're using Unity or Unreal or DirectX or Vulkan. It doesn't matter. So where should we begin? So let's first begin, at the very beginning, really, which is this site, learnopengl.com. This is what I started back in 2021. And it was, I think this is the best resource out there if you want to learn to do things on your own from scratch, such as, building an engine, for instance. It's a very complete tutorial. It's actually a book, and it's free. So it tells you it gives you the basics of graphics programming, essentially. It teaches you, the pipeline of OpenGL. You get to learn it, you build your own stuff, and in the end, here in practice, you get to build a 2D game. So this is how I learned it. Now, of course, this is a very condensed explanation. It took me roughly 4 years to sort of understand OpenGL and eventually build the game that I just released on Steam with it. So what I would do is, so after you finish this and you sort of get the basics of what it entails of building a small engine and a small game with it, you want to start practicing. So what I did is I would build a small game engine on like a 2D game engine. And then I wouldn't even call it an engine. It was more like 2D editors. You would build things in your IDE of choice, and then an editor pops up, and then it helps me build my own little game. Sometimes I would do the game straight with the editor, no engine, and yeah. Anyway, so what I did is for 4 years, I would start projects and then I would never finish them. But this served me as, it taught me a lot, even though I didn't finish anything. Now, eventually what you want to do is, once you've learned enough, you do want to finish your projects, because if you never finish anything, then you cannot make a game, because you can never finish your game, right? So I'm over explaining myself, but essentially, I'm just rambling now. Basically, in a nutshell, I went through this tutorial. I learned the basics. I applied them. It took me roughly 4 years to understand OpenGL, and then I made the transition from 2D to 3D, which was the hardest thing that I ever attempted. It's just a whole different world. But then I also learned that, and I would say over the course of 1 year, maybe 1 year and a few months, I built the Sunlit Kingdom, which is a tower defense game in 3D. And let me just close this. And let's just go here and take a look at this, for instance. So model.h. So So this is more a sort of a talk about. I just want to perhaps give my take on or my advice to current developers, people who are actively developing in their own engines a game. Which, by the way, I would call this a game without an engine. It has everything you need. It has, or everything I wanted, not everything I needed. But it has shadows. It has MSA. It has Bloom, and that's about it. So this is just my advice to like current, fellow developers, fellow OpenGL developers, basically. What I did is I didn't think too much about um, architecture. There is basic architecture, there is a skeleton, but basically everything is condensed in this big CPU, this big struct, which is model CPU. So as you can see, the size is almost 700 bytes, which is a big struct. So basically, every unit in my game, be it a goblin, an archer, the paladin, any type of monster in my game, any type of enemy, has this struct. So this means that half of this struct, or even more, doesn't apply to that enemy in particular. There's a lot of members that make no sense. And despite this, I still chose to use one struct instead of several structs, and the reason for this is because it prevents me from getting confused. Having everything in one struct, and by the way, computers these days are very fast, right? So having everything in one struct, I really couldn't notice any difference in performance compared to like splitting into multiple structs. And even though in this project I didn't split anything into multiple structs, in previous projects I would do that, and it was just very confusing for me, and I had to keep track of a lot of things, and I didn't like it. So this was very convenient, and considering that the CPU has the L1, L2, and L3 cache, I think. In case this doesn't fit in like L1, I think it goes to L2 maybe. I'm not sure if that's even correct. But something like that. It's like I have this like sort of idea, a sort of type of knowledge off the top of my head from what I learned other people, say. But anyway, so yeah, it's just a big struct. I'm not even using instancing. The only thing that I'm instancing are projectiles like arrows. As you can tell here, projectile instance VBO. Everything else is one single draw call. And by the way, everything is done in OpenGL 3.3. There's no like modern standards, like no OpenGL 4. Whatever. And I mean, if you take a look here, see, everything is a simple val, VBO, EBO, and then you have the pointer, the array, boars, mages, boar riders, spike boars. Quite literally one draw call. So what am I trying to say with this is, well, what I'm trying to say is that you can do two things when you start developing something, right? You can either spend a lot of time on the perfect architecture and the latest most modern standards of, I don't know, Vulkan, or if you use OpenGL, you might be tempted to say, oh, I want to use 4.6 because it allows me to like do this, do that, new techniques, but then you have to ask yourself why. Why do you want to use all that? Why don't you want to keep things simple? Why don't you want to use simple vowels and VBOs, and you forget about the latest techniques and whatever, because at the end of the day, first of all, hardware these days is very, very fast. And secondly, if you're a solo developer and your plan is to make a game, don't let other things get in the way, and distract you from making your game. Because if you get too tangled into like engine work and the latest techniques, you might never finish your game because you're not actively working on it. You're just learning different ways of programming and perhaps more efficient ways, but you're not working on your game, right? Eventually, so that's one thing to keep in mind. But yeah, I guess this is really what I wanted to share with you. So if I run this, this is it. This is my game. It's just, again, simple, modern OpenGL 3.3. I don't need, the latest versions. And this is this is a TCP server that I built. And you can learn about a TCP protocol online, and you can even ask the AI to teach you what is a TCP protocol, how does it work. And it's actually quite straightforward. It's really not that hard. So this is a VPS that I'm renting in London. I'm not using the Steam servers, the Steam leaderboards, which in hindsight I should have probably done that, but I just didn't think about that. I wasn't even aware that Steam provided you with their own servers. But yeah, everything that you do here, it goes to the leaderboards. So if I go back to main menu, I can't click there because it's asking me to register, and I'm not going to do that now. But you can write down your name, you can click confirm, and then it gives you a code, and then you have access to the leaderboards. I have 4 different languages. Spanish, because I speak Spanish, but these other 2 I had to use. I had to pay some translators to do it for me. Chinese and Korean. Anyway, this is off topic. This is not even related to the engine, but this is how I built my game, essentially. It's just... it took me a few years to learn things, and it's a matter of never giving up. So this is actually my first OpenGL project that I finished. Like, quite literally. And it was very surreal for me because... man, I started dozens of projects and they never saw the light of day, and this is the first one that I really finished. And let me show you something interesting about this engine. Where is it? Blender. I want you to see this because for this game, I didn't even bother to implement skeletal animation. So let me delete this. A lot of the assets, I did them myself in Blender. But OpenGL, release, just anything. Wait, OpenGL. Wait, assets, models. Okay. So check this out. So everything is an OBJ. So you can tell that there's no skeletal animation. There's no skinning in the game. And the tutorial, the Learn OpenGL tutorial actually teaches you how to do that. But I went down this route, first of all, because it was very straightforward. I was planning to have thousands of enemies on screen for this game. So that's why I ended up going this route. Simply because I never attempted to... I did implement skinning back in the day when I finished the tutorial, but I never attempted to optimize it. And then I was thinking, okay, so what could be a valid solution to having thousands of enemies on screen and avoid the performance impact of a matrix, to move every single vertex, right, in a given enemy, in a given unit. And what happened is, can you guys see me? Yeah. This is better. So what happened is I created 3D flipbooks. So if I click here, it simulates the walk cycle, the death cycle, and then what I do in game is I separate it. I run timers on the CPU, and everything works. And this is how I fake animations. So this is super lightweight in terms of performance. The only downside is, of course, and let me show statistics here. The only downside is actually VRAM, because loading this into memory, it's 150,000 triangles. It's a lot. It's a lot. So when you work like this, there's a lot of constraints. For instance, your models, they have to be very low poly, first of all. So this guy here is relatively low poly. It's 1,400 triangles. So depending on the number of animation or frames of animation that you have, it can go up to, so this one is 150,000 triangles. I have units with 1 million triangles. So the next question is, how do you fix this? How can you overcome the VRAM issue? Because my VRAM, ended up going up to almost, I think it was 6 gigabytes of VRAM. And I was like, that's not good. It wouldn't even fit on a Steam Deck, I think. I'm not sure if it fits on a Steam Deck. I think it does. But anyway, so I was like, so what can I do? And actually the solution was very simple. What you do is you load and unload. It's that simple. So you delete your VBOs and vows and whatever. You unload things from memory. You set the pointer to null, the array, and then you load whatever you need for a given map. And that was the solution. So yeah, quite literally, that's my engine. It's very simple. It's very straightforward. It works just like 2D. When you do 2D, you tend to go through an atlas texture, and then you go through each frame one by one. In this case, I do the same thing, but with 3D models. It's really not a big deal. So yeah, I'm using a GL draw elements base vertex. I believe that's how you call it. So anyway, yeah, this is it. This is how Sunlit Kingdom came to be. It's something that I'm actually relatively proud of. And what I want to do as my next project, if this game does well on Steam and if I make a decent amount of money so that I can support myself, what I want to do is create a multiplayer game. I want to create a multiplayer game, and I'm going to use TCP for that, for the game that I have in mind, which will be a server authoritative game, 100% server authoritative, and it's going to be something in the line of teamfight tactics. I want to do that. Like I'm super passionate about this, and it'll be a sort of a new horizon for me to explore. But if things go well, again, and if money allows it, because at the end of the day, it's not so much about time. It's about money, because money buys you time. If you have money, then you have all the time in the world, because you don't have to worry about going to work or getting a job to pay rent and pay your bills. So we'll see. It depends on how well the Sunlit Kingdom performs. So thank you for watching, and if you're a developer, good luck with your project. Keep on working. Never give up, whatever you're trying to do. And yeah, take care.